The sound of the capital city, Radio Cardiff.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Radio Cardiff, 98.7 FM.
Or good evening, even.
Good evening.
Welcome to Illustration Radio. I'm Jamie Stevenson with Osian Gifford.
Hello, Osian Gifford here.
And who else do we have with us?
We have in the studio, we have 7 guests, roughly. Before I introduce them, I've just got a technical problem that I've got to go and check. The microphone went. Should we just carry on?
Yeah. So we're here with John Wilson from the Andrew Buchan Bar on Albany Road, and there's an art exhibition going on there. John, do you want to tell us something about it?
That's right, it's called Portrait 11, so we have 11 artists actually. I should probably name them, so here we go. It's called Portrait 11. 11 artists explore portraiture, and it's a group show. We feature Sarah Padfield, Dano, Ruby Fox, Stevie Stabbers, Nathan Wyburn, Redvers John, Lucy DeMaid, Dave Kenrick, Glyn Owen, Nikita McBride, and Osian Gifford himself. It's all about icons and irony in this mixed media show, as drawing virtuosity, old masters revisited, montage, allegorical intrigue, the documentary eye, surrealism, psychedelia, punk iconoclasm, computer graphics, and pop art with pizzazz, all conspire to make us think about the genre of portraiture. And then you might say, gee, that's in a bar, that's kind of interesting. So, yeah, there's been a bit of a buzz about the show, lots of artists involved, and that made me take it seriously, if you like.
So it's going to address something in particular that's kind of happening right at the moment, a certain landmark milestone.
Well, truth be known, we're in a public bar. It's not a library. So we thought we can get away with some fun along the way at the opening event. So this year, 2016, is the centenary of the middle of the First World War, and Dada as an art movement. It emerged in Zurich as an anti-war statement by artists, émigrés, exiles, in Switzerland as a neutral country. And hey, they met in a nightclub, the Cabaret Voltaire. And from this point, people know surrealism, but Dada's not quite on people's map. But think of the Sex Pistols album cover, never mind the bollocks. Think of Bob Dylan and David Bowie with those lyrics where they pick words out of hat, cut them up out of a piece of print or whatever. And that's pure Dada in essence. So for our opening, we're declaring a Dada soiree. We will have performance in the form of song, of word, of performance. Anything goes in a sense under Dada, but we'll have an entertaining evening, and thus our theme is Dada soiree. There's a nice bit of history to that, if you'd want me to elaborate, or if you have any more intelligent questions.
I was just going to say that this is going to be obviously quite an interesting and unorthodox show. If you'd like to text in with your views or any ideas or anything you have about the show, the text number is 07728 758 759. So we're going to have a little taster of the strange experience of Dada today for the next hour.
Okay, and if I could just sort of reassert in a way, it's very sombre. This year we've seen many commemorative events in Cardiff of 1916, Battle of the Somme, Mamet's Wood, which was a major tragedy for Wales in terms of fatalities. This is industrialised warfare on a scale never seen before. Many of the Dada artists in Zurich and Berlin were at the front. And their response to this was to assert the irrational, for example, but also to say this is not about nation, it's not about defending nation. This is a result of the logic and the dynamics of industrial capital. This is imperialism, and our challenge is for people to unite across Europe, to say no to war. And, historians' view is the 20th century is bracketed by war, right up to 1989. Eric Hobsbawm says that's when the short 20th century ends. We lived through the Cold War, post-89, the war on terror, and so on. So in a way, has the agenda ended? That's the rhetorical question, if you like. And if we re-examine Dada, I think there's a very serious message there. These people were anti-art, anti-aesthetics, anti-museums, etc. But they were damn serious about what they did. They innovated, they produced photomontage using modern print technology. They were involved with performance, redefining the way in which poetry could be approached. And a lot of this is our cultural given at the moment. So I think it's a very important movement. Surrealism kind of hogs centre stage, but in a sense, you can look at Dada as an originating point. And I think the fact of the commemoration of 1916, as sombre as that is, Dada is clearly an invite to fun.
And it was a sanctuary as well, really, more than anything.
Well,
for
that's
artists
right.
in
They
Europe.
were all in exile.
And that's something that
if you're
feel
artists in
today.
exile, you're going to want to meet in a bar and have a drink for a start. So if you think of poetry and performance, they'd meet and have meetings and discussions and that. But in a way, performance, and what we know as performance art, started in these informal spaces, outside the official art world, of course, and the academy, with an artist response to social problems. So,
Well,
yes.
so shall we have some performance?
Well, there we go. Now we will kick off with Dave Daggers. And I believe Dave is in very sombre mood here. What's your first piece called, Dave?
Well, the first piece is called Dating on the Planet of the Invisible. And in a way, this is going to be a very big Dada event because I'm actually going to do it while being invisible on Saturday. And I'll give you I haven't quite perfected it yet, but I'm going to go invisible for a short time now. And if you may just see a little flutter and a fade while I do this poem. But can you see me now?
I can't see you at all.
Right, I'll start. Dating on the planet of the invisible, where there's no point in wearing clothes. There's no point in being bashful. You're naked from your head to your toes. Dating on the planet of the invisible, you can't be image conscious. You may have a body that's enviable, but you don't know if you measure up. Dating on the planet of the invisible, you can't see what you get. It's very unreliable. You don't know if your date's thin or thick-set. Dating on the planet of the invisible, you never recognise your blind date. It's so hard to be very sexual when there's nothing to see or appreciate. Dating on the planet of the invisible, it's easy to have an affair. Even to your wife, you're unrecognisable. You can be unfaithful without a care. Dating on the planet of the invisible, they don't try to judge you visually. Being a hunk is inessential. It's a great place if you're ugly. Dating on the planet of the invisible. There ain't no infatuation. Porn mags and videos are derisible. There just ain't no titillation. Dating on the planet of the invisible. You need a girl to relate to philosophically. A sort of intellectual girl with a playful personality. It's all that matters with invisibility. I was born on the planet of the invisible, and there's no other place I'd like to be. I've learnt the pleasures of talking and touching, but I just wish I was the only one who could see.
Oh, wonderful. Keeping the fun there at the end.
Well, if you thought that poem was rubbish, I'm going to follow it with a really great poem. This poem, I'm going to explain it first because it is actually the greatest poem ever written. You may have difficulty understanding this next poem because the concept is very intellectual, very advanced, and I just want to spend a few minutes just showing you. I wrote it when I was on my way from Newport to Cardiff. I was travelling on the train, and I wrote this because my soul was full of pain. This poem is about conflict, existence, and the wish to prevail. It's about life, strife, and the determination not to fail. It's all about the quest for peace and my sympathy for the austerity in Greece. It's against all violence towards all men and women and the ever-rising cost of living. This poem tells you how to be a success. It is the answer to the pursuit of happiness. It transforms you into the person you want to be and takes you on your ultimate sexual fantasy. This poem is better than Eliot, Thomas and Keats. It is a masterpiece that nothing beats. It is about the labouring artisan and his skills and the beautiful host of golden daffodils. It's against fox hunting, bullfighting, allows no dog fighting at all. This poem is against all war, no matter what we're fighting for. This poem angers flankers, bankers, public schoolboy spankers. It even cleans up all the pollution from shipwrecked oil tankers. This poem questions religion and political division, pornography, catastrophe, selfie photography in the capitalist society, celebrities, deities, Sophocles, Socrates, society's inequalities. It is a critique of the UKIP, the acid trip, and girls that strip. I don't vote UKIP, by the way. This poem is against youth in Asia, but supports teenagers in other continents. It is about the extremists I can't abide and the clouds above the countryside. This poem has complicated rhythms and stanzas in 5/9 time. It subverts iambic pentameter, yet has the energy of the amateur. It has trumpets that blare and a singular guitar strum. It has a primitive rhythm, an African drum. This poem does not go gentle into that good night. It hasn't started a revolution, but it might. As you rage from page to page to page, I shall transport you to the poetry of the space age. This poem explains the cosmos, the universe, the speed of light. It is about the brightness of day and the blackness of night, about the wonder of music and the greatness of art. Picasso, Van Gogh, Mozart and Bach. This poem is an ode to feminism, creationism, hedonism and Catholic catechism. It is a discussion of bullying, Buddhism and bulimia, anorexia, schizophrenia and the social media. After this poem, you will no longer need holistic healing. You will be filled with good health and positive feeling. It explains ecology and human biology. It encourages recycling and the pleasures of bicycling. This poem addresses racism, vampirism, circumcision and over-optimism, communicism, radicalism, healing prisons, people in prison, gays, cross-genders, church attenders, pretenders, benders, serial offenders and stockings and suspenders. This poem explains why the world is in a mess. It solves all the problem in the NHS. It courts criticism, nevertheless. It tries to reassess Hitler, Goebbels and Hermann Hesse. This poem is about the first girl I have ever kissed. It is sweet music that's more progressive than even Genesis. It is humanist, Islamist, existentialist. It celebrates love, friendship and getting pissed. This poem tells you the date the world will end. There is no one and no religion it will not offend. It names all politicians involved in paedophilia, yet it is silly as Fawlty Towers. In fact, even sillier. I've read all the great poems, but this one is better. In the history of poetry, this is a pace setter. Everyone who's seen it says it's the best poem they've ever read. I think my poem is the great poem, and I'm not a bighead. In fact, it's not only the best poem in Britain, this poem is the best poem ever written. It is the best poem in the universe, the ultimate future of poetic verse. And now the poem. Actually, I can't quite find it. Is someone else can go on for a second while? Oh, no, here it is. No, I found it. Maybe, Mark, could you? Maybe you should introduce Mark while I go and have a look for the poem.
So, Mark, what have you got for us?
Good evening, Canada. Well, as we are doing Dada this evening, and as I am a Dada myself, this is for my 2-year-old son, and it's called Roth Roth Park Park. I was alarmed to find that not only is a black swan and an unexpected event, but that in Roth Park in Cardiff we have two of them who saw that coming question mark. My son sees the swans and says quack the swans do not answer back. And now platform 4. I am sorry to announce that the 1915 from Cardiff Central is delayed by approximately 8 minutes. I am very sorry for this appalling delay. What makes it even worse is that I am not even a real human being. You think you've got problems with your train running 18 minutes late. Think about how bad things are for me. And remember, it is always better to travel than it is to Arriva. Time Traveller's Love Song. Tonight, the look of love is in your eyes. But will you love me? Yesterday. Ooh, fashion. My 2-year-old has flashing shoes. This got them arrested. Naughty shoes. Ode to Captain Cook. I went to get a lousy T-shirt, and all I came back with was Australia. Even the smallest house has the same priceless bowl of blue sky. Now, Dada is often associated with David Bowie. I don't really know why, but here's the David Bowie poem anyway. Nothing rhymes with David Bowie. Now you've gone, we're feeling lowy. We want you back to say hello-y. Now, this next one is a poem for people who like numbers, and it's called The Numbers. The numbers remind me of you. The 3 of your breasts. The 4 as you turn on one leg. The 7 of your knee. The 9 as you bend to kiss me. You are the girl from Countdown. Winning wager. Playing chess, you stripped to distract me. Illegal move. So for a bet, we went to the shops in our long coats and nothing else. Who won the money? Tesco. Gok 1, Everton 0. Birmingham 6, Guildford 4. Channel 5, Mouth of 7. Tenerife 95. Iceland 199. Motherwell, thanks for asking. Figure of 8. Dave Daggers' phone goes off, there's always one, isn't there? Heaven 17. Haircut 100. Jabba the Hutt 8. Kirk Douglas 99. Your call 0898. My call Jackson. And in honour of our previous guest, an exclusive poem for the Dada evening this evening. People of Canada, I give you Poem for Dave Daggers. There was a young man called Dave Daggers who bought a dog whose tail waggers. Then one tragic time it fell down a mine because it carried some very heavy baggers. Thank you, Canada. Back soon.
Wow. Well, I hope that's sufficiently filled in for the last poem. So there's very different kind of styles of poetry going on here. Do you find that there's something you're trying to specifically express or not express in any of this poetry? I mean, asking both of you kind of in... You obviously very different styles.
I'm trying to be as immensely serious as possible, as you could tell.
I was going to ask what the aim is to be kind of, say, in Dadaism, senseless and surreal, but how much of that is like purely directed towards comedy in your specifically?
I think you have to understand that Hugo Ball started this 100 years ago, and he was in the... He rented a room at the back of... where was it? In a place, I think it was in Paris, and he managed to make an entertainment because he had to get people in to pay for beer. So it was a mixture of entertainment, raucousness, and surrealism. And as time went on, the weeks it got weirder and weirder.
In Zurich.
Zurich,
yeah, the Cabaret Voltaire.
Cabaret Voltaire. You're very intelligent, aren't you?
I know small amounts about Dada, but I don't think as much as you guys. So, do you have anything with? I noticed you've got the guitar there, and you've been doing some spoken word poetry, and you did a teasing little strum in one of your previous poems. But
I did.
You seem eager to do more strums.
It's a ukulele, but after the brilliance of Mark Blayney, I couldn't possibly do another poem. You know, it would just suffer in comparison. So I'm going to do a sort of Dadaist love song. And it's called Hot and Sweaty Over You. There's a trough of low pressure over Cardiff. They're expecting scattered showers in Kathmandu. It's been snowing in Vancouver, but I'm still hot and sweaty over you. There's a fissure in the continental shelf. A tidal wave's about to hit the coast. I'm running hard to save myself, but it's you I want to save the most. I'm drenched to the skin as I struggle through the monsoon. I'd call you, but the phones don't work, and the telephone wires are all strewn. There's another dust storm in the Sahara. There's a coup d'etat in Salvador. I like the girl who sells tobacco on the corner, but you're the girl I adore. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la la lust after you. A meteor's gonna hit the earth, and I don't know what to do. My thoughts are all about death and birth, and the times I spend with you. The Martians have invaded town, and the death rays aiming at me. I get a gun and I'd shoot them down, but it's with you I'd rather be. There's a tsunami in the Pacific, and it's gonna drown all of us. But girl, I think you're terrific. In fact, you're fabulous. There's a trough of low pressure over Cardiff. They're expecting scattered showers over Kathmandu. It's been snowing in Vancouver, but I'm still hot and sweaty over you. Thank you very much.
Oh, wonderful.
Ukulele always makes me want to clap.
Yeah. It's got a certain cheerfulness to it.
That was beautiful. Why is Dave called Dave Daggers? Is that a surname? Back to the mic before you wander off.
Believe it or not, it's my real name.
It's a real name?
Yeah, I was born with it.
You were born to Dada.
I was called David Daggers, and I realised it was quite a nice, alliterating little rhyming couplet.
So you got into it, got into rhyming.
If I can.
Just to follow on from the questions we were asking before you burst into song, I was asking sort of were you aiming at comedy, and does Dada in general aim towards comedy because it fits in really naturally with a kind of surprising element. Also, how much sort of logic and sense and maybe Dada history do you think you have to know to get involved and to be a kind of Dada-esque artist?
I think it's more absurd than comic, but if you are absurd, then you're only going in one direction. But I know very little about Dada, so I'll go back over to an expert on Dada, Mr. Dave Daggers.
You've answered the question a little bit there if you say you know very little about it, but you kind of seem immersed in it, or at least invited to join in on it.
You also have to remember that what they were saying was that intelligence and sense and science and patriotism led to thousands being mowed down in the Somme. And they were, at the time, very brave to stand up because it was a very patriotic time.
You just lumped in sense and patriotism, did you?
So?
You just lumped together sense and patriotism.
Well, they're saying that they were against sense and patriotism. The common sense that was they felt at the time. So they're using insane kind of coalitions of words and ideas seemed a lot more sensible than the common sense of that time.
And from the world of the establishment and industry that they kind of trying to escape, to look at Dada could seem absurd and comic, but I'm sure for many of the artists involved it was a very serious way to express things that they weren't able to express before. So
absolutely,
you can look at it from both sides of the coin.
He's very good. He's done his research.
I did an essay on it in first year.
Did you?
Just to remind our listeners, this is Jamie's first show hosting.
He's doing ever so
Thank you
well.
for having me.
Dadaism was a lucky first show, then, or he's probably week after week we're just going to discover endless knowledge on everything. I did an essay on it once last night.
I'll have to do an essay every week.
Yeah, that's all right. I guess I wanted to ask a little bit more, but I'm not sure who this is going to get more aimed at, about the Andrew Buchan itself. And Dave already brought up the Cabaret Voltaire, and I don't know, how much is this event sort of aimed consciously at being this type of venue?
Well, things happen sometimes by planning and sometimes not. I was interviewed a year ago by a journalist and didn't really want to say too much. I maintain that position. Okay. No, and in over the past few years, music has really emerged in the bar, and a community of musicians has formed, and then basically a parallel process in terms of artists. I've had art on the wall, and it's come and gone. Some of it's been really quite engaging. And then I needed to have a new show when Redford's John recalled his works. They'd been up a while, lovely large pop art canvases. And I was confronted with empty walls. And like a vacuum, lots of people were saying, well, ooh, could I be part of the next show? And as things turned out, it clarified as a show on portraiture. We've sort of opportunistically grabbed Dada as an excuse to have a bit of fun on the weekend for the opening, in a sense. But you could say, if you look at the range of imagery, there's a sort of common approach. Clearly, they're not commissioned by people in positions of power. There's no monarchy or major industrialists or state patronage behind it. So in that way, it's contemporary. It's kind of post-pop art. A lot of it is in the mode of parody. The pop art stuff, we've got Nathan Wyburn, and that's got quite a few sophisticated layers. And you could say subversive as well, of celebrities, of the media. And
there is that. That's a kind of common link, and I think that, I think subversion is a common link between most of the artwork, and that's not consciously sought out, but there is a common link between everyone.
Yeah, and
it's that they're socially linked to the same venue.
And I don't link it on my venue, but I think it's interesting. There are common aspects to people's approach, which in some senses is a conscious strategy. Like Osian Gifford's work is clearly engaging social themes and ethics and cultural mores and so on in that kind of sense. Other people's work. I think it's quite interesting. Like Oscar Wilde's A Portrait of Dorian Gray, there's a nice passage in that where he says, well, actually, I can't show this portrait in public because it bears my own soul. The notion that it's the artist that's on display as much as the subject. So I think, unwittingly perhaps, artists' work on the theme of portrait speaks as much about them and their approaches, and it is contemporary and, in a sense, alternative culture, whereas they might not go waltzing around saying, hey, I'm a contemporary, alternative kind of an artist. But it's where people's interests are aesthetically and culturally, and they may draw their friends or pop icons or whatever, but they bring something to that. There's a sensibility that's brought to it, I think. And in a way, that's post-Dada. We don't inhabit a world where we have to, pay obedience to church, state, bourgeoisie, whatever, to be rhetorical.
And on that note, we do have to get to the break very soon. I'd like to add, if you want to text in on the conversation, we've got Dave Daggers in the way of the text number.
07728 758 759.
Yeah, and just join in, chip in, any questions for any of our guests. That'd be great.
Some music. On Saturday the 1st of October, Radio Cardiff presents their Reggae Fundraising Night. A journey through reggae music, sponsored by Clarity Copiers. This all takes place at Roth Sports and Social Club, Broadway.
Entertainment on the night, performing live K2 Collective, Sister T and Lordy P, plus a special appearance by one of Radio Cardiff's biggest listeners.
A journey with artists such as Toots and the Maytals, Jimmy Cliff, John Holt, to Beanie Man and Mr. Vegas, bringing you right up to date with Busy Signal and Chronics.
All of your favourite Radio Cardiff DJs will be there, including Crystal Clear,
Father Oscar,
Love and Harmony,
Silver,
Jane Morris,
Georgina,
and last but nowhere near least, CT and Hilly.
The night will be hosted by the lovely Miss Sam Shorty.
And Scorpion.
Show starts 7 p.m. until late. For ticket bookings and further info, contact Radio Cardiff or contact 07510 767 105. A journey through reggae music on Saturday the 1st of October.
Greetings from the planet Splot. I come with a warning. It seems that some of you have not yet discovered our Splot Market with its thousands of great bargains every Thursday and Saturday at the car boot sale and every Sunday at the original market. This is an intergalactic crime of the same seriousness as collecting Bay City Rollers albums and is punishable by immediate and permanent transportation to the set of El Dorado. You have been warned.
If you're leaving school or uni, or if you're older and looking for a change of direction, an apprenticeship can provide you with quality training and help you develop a successful career. As an apprentice, you'll get to earn while you learn, pick up valuable skills and qualifications, and gain amazing practical experience. If you want to start a rewarding career, the answer is apprenticeships. Search Careers Wales Apprenticeships for more. The apprenticeship programme is funded by the Welsh Government with support from the European Social Fund.
Hello, this is Chris Evans, and whenever I'm in Cardiff, I always listen to Radio Cardiff. How can you not? 98.7 FM.
Hello, good evening and welcome back to Illustration Radio on Radio Cardiff, 98.7 FM.
Pitch illustration, I'll have to join in and say that.
Sorry, pitch illustration, it's my first
Richard will be
time.
listening.
Pitch Illustration Radio. We're discussing, not just discussing, we're listening to and watching, and you can watch with your ears, Dada performances this evening. John Wilson and a whole host of artists and performers are doing a Dada soiree at the Andrew Buchan Bar on Albany Road. The opening for that is, the event is Saturday the 1st of October, 7 p.m. That's 29 Albany Road. And before the break, we were listening to some poetry from Dave Daggers and Mark Blayney. And we're going to have some performance in a bit, but Mark's got a few more poems for us to kind of take us back into the mood. So, Mark, over to you.
Welcome back, Canada. You're listening to Radio Dada. And here is, in the second part of this, I Stedford, I'm going to do something a little bit more surreal rather than comic. Here's a poem about getting your heart broken. It's called Blue Trouser Blues. You left your jeans on the radiator, and I woke later and saw half of you drying by the wall. I move you to the window where it's sunnier and you dry quicker. The next day you're crisp and sharp and can stand on the carpet. To give you body, I fill your legs with plastic bags, hoarded so that when I go shopping, I can take them with me and save the planet. I never remember them, though. They're more use giving the half of you ballast. It's hard to get your figure right, and I can see you removing some, twisting round and saying, do my plastic bags look big in this? Half of you walks across my floor now. I find some shoes that fit and go to see you, depositing it on the path. You're out, it seems. I leave it mid-stride to wait, and later dream that half of you walks carefully, decisively through the snow, bringing the rest of you with her. So that's a tragic poem about getting your heart broken. And here's something less heartbreaking called Penarth Pier. As we are, people of Canada listening to this, as we're guest appearancing from Cardiff this evening, Penarth Pier. There's a woman outside with blue hair and a cigarette. If I were a seagull, I would ride alongside her, ruffle the sea on top of her head, and peck her spare, glowing beak. Now, Dada is often known for its violence. I don't really know why, but here's another one about murdering somebody. It's called Kill Your Darling. It's the shoes remain vivid, bluer than eyes. It turned on a heel, the moment between not doing and doing. Something about the insolent dip between knees, the curt head turning away. It was like watching someone else's hand on the weapon, someone else's vein pulsing, the mushroom cloud of skirt, and the thoughtful rotating of finger pinch ring. Here's a poem that's been designed for radio. You say, I talk too much. I don't think that's true. Although on the other hand, it might be. I love you, but I cannot get a word in Edgeworth. Thank you very much. And what have we got next? Let's have poem written backwards. Cuff, cuff, cuff. Then it cuff. You love still, I. Me than looking better, he's okay. You 4 more do, couldn't I? Low, pretty is text by dumping. Again, try we can. Then you cuff. Cuff, cuff, it, cuff. Title. Blayney Mark by Night Good.
Wow, absolutely wonderful. Mark Blayney, everybody. So now we're going to have some performances from the other people that have gathered at the back of the room, eager to show you the noise into the microphone. So, John, do you want to just introduce them?
Well, we're all kind of looking askance because we're about to have, and this is a first in the whole history of radio as a mass communications medium. We have a live performance by our very own Jen, hula hoop artist, on the radio, and if that's not Dada, it should be. Jen, over to you.
Thank you.
With the hoop, with bells on for radio purposes.
Wow.
Well, there we go. A world first. Absolutely wonderful.
The phrase cultural revolution comes to mind. And on that theme, actually, Elizabeth Jane Williams is lined up next with that most Dada of instruments, the ukulele.
Yes.
But the song is it's a love song, it's a beautiful song. And there's a link to Berlin, it's David Bowie's song, Heroes.
We've got to check that the ukulele...
And ukuleles, they need tuning, you know what they're like, they play up. Unlike the hula hoop artist, who did not play up.
Hula hoops do not need tuning. This is one of the little
it's an advantage.
Advantages.
Dave's going to join me for a bit.
Intrusion by Dave Daggers.
Welcome back, Dave.
He's going to sing a verse.
I'll sing the verse.
All right, cleared throat now.
Take it away.
I wish I could swim like dolphins could swim. Though nothing will keep us together, we can beat them forever and ever, and we can be heroes just for one day.
I will be king, and you will be queen. Though nothing would drive them away, we can be heroes just for one day. Oh, we can be us just for one day. I will remember standing by the wall, and the gods shone above our heads. and we kissed like nothing could fall. And the shame was on the other side. Oh, we can beat them forever and ever. And we can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes. We can be heroes. And we can be heroes just for one day.
Wow.
My hands are
beautiful.
sweating and slipping off the strings. Right, Jen, you're going to come and we're going to do a little song. Yeah, that's
So we've got
now, I
another
think.
song
Is
coming
it?
up
Is
now.
that now? Yeah, it can
So
be now.
Jen
can't
of
it?
the Hula Hoop
Jen
is
of the
gonna
hula hoop.
join
And the hula
on
hoop
the
joined
ukulele.
joined in that,
Yes,
didn't
there was a
it?
cameo from the
Yeah,
hula hoop.
we
I don't
had
know if you
little
heard the
bells
background
twinkling in the background.
Any pitter patter on the microphones is sweat from about 7 people in one small studio room just dropping onto the mics.
No,
right, that
no.
was far too
According
much.
to Dada, it was
That
a
was
mad
far too
world. A mad world.
We're just tuning ukes.
And the next song is being tuned up as we speak.
Why did you say the words mad world, John?
Why or when?
Does that link into the next song?
It may be
kinda
my
does.
effort at a segue.
We all need a cold shower after this, I think, don't we? That'll do, say. That'll do. It's Dada. It's Dada. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Oh, we kind of need 2 mics for this, don't we?
Yeah, you can move over and use both mics, that's fine.
Oh, gosh. I don't know if that's going to reach. It's not going to reach, is it?
So I'd just like to remind you, if you'd like to text in about anything you've heard on the show, contribute to the discussion, the text number
Just
is
share. Yeah.
07728 758 759. We'd love to hear from you. And this is Jane and Jen.
The J's.
The J's. The 2 J's, yeah.
What's my lesson? Look right through me, look right through me. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, 'cause I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world.
So here we've heard two songs, Bob Dylan and Tears for Fears there, that you've used as part of this kind of Dada performance experience. And obviously these are modern in relation to the origination of Dada in Zurich. And they're also songs that have been used repeatedly in modern culture in various circumstances, as has Dada in various forms. So I wanted to ask maybe John or anyone else who'd like to say anything. Where do you see Dada? Where is it at the moment in our culture, particularly? Where
Everywhere.
do you find it?
Everywhere.
Do you think there's any particular art movements or cultural or political occurrences or creations by people that particularly resonate with what happened in the 1910s and 20s with Dada?
Okay, in one sense you could say it's a sensibility, in another sense you could say it's challenging society. So if you think of classical punk aesthetic, is that an oxymoron or something, a classical punk aesthetic? And this year there's celebrations of the anniversary of punk, however many years. Just think of that album cover, never mind the expletives, and the typographical design on it, that's out and out Dada. Very self-consciously, I won't even name the promoter, but promoter of the band The Sex Pistols was clearly influenced by Situationism. The international Situationists were themselves a response to a revolutionary moment, 1968 in Paris. They themselves, despite, rejecting everything, were really quite focused on producing things. They rioted in the streets, they hurled paving stones, but they also published pamphlets, re-theorized Marx, Lukács, and so on, came up with original social analysis, which has been flavour of the month for more than 1 decade in higher education, shall we say. And I think Situationism informs a lot of contemporary musical culture, whether people are aware of that or not. So I think it's become a tacit form of knowledge. It's a cultural given, confronted with monarchy and so on, you come up with lyrics like The Pistols. That's a very Dada act. There was, as I say, a very sort of almost like a ready kit behind it in terms of the management's push on that. But in a sense, I guess you could say, as I'm contemplating this, the intellectuals and artists, musicians, performers washed up in the neutral zone of Zurich, they're going to be quite wealthy, aren't they? They're escaping the war. Some of them fought on the front. Incidentally, Lenin was in the next building to the Cabaret Voltaire. But the authorities busted the Cabaret Voltaire, not Lenin. But you think of contemporary music and, post-60s, it's all about talent coming from maybe working class people, parts of the country, Britain, whatever, that might be overlooked. And that's where there's creativity and talent. And in a sense, that's the ongoing dynamic of contemporary culture. It's about people assuming a voice, having something to say, and saying it in maybe unorthodox ways before the mainstream then tries to catch them, commoditize them, commercialize them as, that's the dynamic of popular fashion, popular culture, music, so on and so forth.
But it only does that at a surface level, doesn't it? It only takes
Yeah,
the kind of style of
yeah.
it all, it doesn't take the context.
So in essence, it's anti-market. In that sense, Dada was
As long as
anti-market.
there's a rejection of the established norm or mode, then there will be Dada.
I think if you look at an artist like David Shrigley, who just today has had a new sculpture put up on that empty plinth in Trafalgar Square, and I don't know if you've seen it, but that's the nearest thing, I think, at the moment to a Dada act, which is, it's very blackly ironic. Ostensibly, this is it's a gigantic thumb, and it's a gigantic thumbs up, and it's basically, he's plonked this in the middle of Trafalgar Square as if to say, look, everything's great. But of course, it's a really ironic thumb. It's a sort of, everything's not okay. And that's a Dada act, to actually be able to subversively kind of get that under the radar. He's even got the Mayor of London standing there today saying, oh, this is great, shows Britain positively moving forward post-Brexit and this kind of thing. And of course, it's not. It's pure satire, and he's done it at about 72 feet high.
An ironic thumb is a nice pair of words.
If anyone hasn't seen that, the piece by David Strictly on the Fourth Plinth, just Google it. It's quite interesting. So, Osian, you've got some work in the exhibition coming up at the Andrew Buchan, and I just wanted to ask you, obviously, when you created the work, and I don't think you had Dada in mind, but how do you find that the umbrella or the context of Dada, having been placed upon the event, has affected maybe how you think your work could be seen, or what your work might say in a different way?
I think it's more affected by being in a pub. The big garish paintings, kind of superhero colours, of friends kind of drinking in mostly in kind of graveyard situations, and it's kind of got some embarrassing kind of sexual items in them and stuff. Because they're of me and my friends, I thought I could kind of embarrass us, but it also kind of makes everyone look kind of cool in an embarrassing way. I think it's about kind of street drinking and things. I think it being in a pub kind of makes that quite a strange thing. Again, it's kind of glamorising maybe drinking on the outside and sort of on the streets, and then it being at a Dada event, I think it will link everyone else's work up together with a kind of political meaning to it, because there are some very, very obviously political stuff, like there's literally paintings of is it Ian Duncan Smith and David Cameron in there, and that will kind of gear it all towards a kind of, we are a kind of subculture, or at least an underculture or something, is giving it that emphasis.
And do you see similar themes, similar strains in Cardiff, in the art scene in Cardiff in general, in terms of the themes that John's been discussing, that we've been discussing today, people that you know, things that you've seen?
There's little pop-up venues that come up that try and be the centre of the art hub of Cardiff, I guess, and they just, obviously because those sort of things happen in buildings that are kind of abandoned or just in between being turned from something that it was into a Tesco's, they like keep sort of like crumbling, I suppose, falling. So and I think having it in a kind of pub, which is, it has to be to some extent a commercial place, has to sell beer. At least there's promises that it's going to last. It
feels like there's a kind of, you can visualise a constant running of artists from one venue to another. As if you could, the exact Abacus from last year as an example of a venue that was loved and used by many artists and various people for various reasons, and has now been closed down. And the people that would run that and used it as a space are going to have to find more places, and it's kind of this lack of sanctuary for artists, and there are in many respects, but I'm sure lots of people in Cardiff and in cities throughout the world find that they do not have necessarily a permanent, safe and welcoming space in which they can create their work and show their work, and a pub has to be the archetype of a safe and welcoming space within a city. So I think it's a wonderful place to have an exhibition and give it this kind of tone. So and
it's a sanctuary from sobriety as well. It's a sanctuary from a few things.
Exactly, it's a sanctuary from anything you want. So John, do you have anything more you want to say about kind of any more ways you would kind of trying to drive the themes of this in reflection to what we've heard and seen today from the performances?
Well, I think speaking for all of us, we've had a great night tonight on the radio, and we'll have a great night on Saturday. So any listeners, viewers, why not come along and join in the fun, basically?
Time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
It's on Albany Road. It's on Facebook as well, as one needs to be nowadays. It's Andrew Buchan Bar on Facebook. And you'll find links there to a website. There's a catalogue. There's an overview of the exhibition. There's even an essay which is about the theme of mapping the cultural landscape with regard to the points just raised, pop-up venues and places that artists can meet, form networks, coalesce. And that's the challenge. But I think there's success on that front. We don't know where the School of Art is anymore, perhaps, but we do know where there's really good art. It's there in your local bar. And I think that highlights the energy of artists, despite perhaps official institutions. And that in itself is pretty Dada, if you think about it.
So we've heard some wonderful performances today. Just like to go and say your names again. It's Mark Blayney was doing the wonderful poetry. And Dave Daggers as well on poetry and ukulele. And we've had Jen and Jane who've done some wonderful singing. And it's been John Wilson. Now, I was wondering if we want to close, might be appropriate to close on a bit of poetry, a small performance or something, if we have something suitably surreal.
Jen also on hoops as well.
And, of course, Jen on the hula hoops, the world's first radio hula hoop performance.
Thanks, Osian.
Well, I can give you one more. If you've liked the poems this evening, I do have a new book out in a couple of weeks. Loud Music Makes You Drive Faster. Surreal poems by Blayney. Do come along to the event on Saturday, see some more of that. And I'll give you one more as we've got a few seconds left. We're all familiar with the Japanese form of haiku, I'm sure. This is cleaning haiku. I looked hard for the vanish this morning. Couldn't find it anywhere. I'll clap myself as no one else.
Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely wonderful.
Brilliant.
So I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard and maybe seen with your mind today, and hopefully you can come in here and see some more at the Dada soiree at the Andrew Buchan at 7 p.m. on 29 Albany Road on Saturday the 7th?
It's the 1st.
1st of October.
Of October.
So it's been Pitch Illustration Radio with me, Jamie Stevenson and Osian Gifford, and all of our guests, and we hope to see you next week.